Now, one of the main reasons, or if not the main reason, that a lot of players lose many matches in Clash Squad rank is because of the mistakes that they do in the matches. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys 5 big mistakes that players do in Clash Squad rank matches and also how to fix them. So first of all, let's start with mistake number 1. Now, one of the reasons that a lot of players get knocked down or eliminated in Clash Squad matches is because they get attacked from the back. Now, I think a lot of you guys can agree with this as well, that when you're like focusing on an enemy that is in the front, all of a sudden another enemy comes and attacks you from the back. Now, the reason that this happens is because a lot of the time we only focus on the front, we don't focus on the back. A lot of the time in Clash Squad matches, a lot of enemies like to stay behind corners inside houses. So for example, in the clock tower house, enemies like to stay behind this corner. So if someone comes through the window, they'll just wait until someone comes through the window, and afterwards, if that person is focusing on the front, they'll just attack from the back. So what I want to say is, when you're playing Clash Squad matches, don't just focus on the front. Try to focus on the back as well. The back is also as important as the front. So make sure that you focus on the front and the back as well. So some of the solutions that I can give to this is, first of all, you can use a location detecting character like the clue character or the auto character, or else you can also slide the free look button and see if there's an enemy in the back. Or else you can just use the old way where you can just press the jump button and slide the screen to see if there's someone in the back. Now, the second mistake that players do is that they use the same set of characters or the same character combination that they used in the previous season when they're playing in the new season. Now, the problem with doing this is that after a new update, Free Fire usually changes a lot of characters. Sometimes they nerf characters, sometimes they give a buff to a character, sometimes they introduce a new character, or sometimes they fully change a character skill. So for example, let's say that you keep using a set of characters that got nerfed. So when you go into a match, you go up against players that use these really good character combinations. They use character combinations with characters that got buffed, or they use very powerful characters in their character combination. So if you go up against these type of players, you might have a hard time winning against them. So when a new update comes, try to read the patch notes and see what are the characters that got nerfed, what are the characters that got buffed. But if you don't like to read the patch notes, you could just go onto YouTube and see a video on the new update, what are the characters that were nerfed and buffed. And another thing is the guns. The guns also get nerfed and buffed, and sometimes they even add new guns as well. So as I said earlier, when a new update comes, try to see what are the characters that got nerfed and buffed, and afterwards try to change your character combination accordingly. So guys, now let's move on to mistake number 3. Now this mistake might look like a simple mistake, but it's actually a very big mistake that players do, and that mistake is not taking advantage of covers properly. Now, for example, let's say that you are in a cover and an enemy is coming towards you. Now, the mistake that players do is that they just jump out of the cover towards the enemy and then they attack the enemy. Now, you might be able to knock down the enemy, you might be able to do a one tap, but what happens if you're not able to knock down the enemy with that shot? The enemy might easily knock you down, right? So instead of just jumping out of the cover, a better idea would be to just come out of the cover a little bit, fire at the enemy, and then go back inside to dodge the attack of the enemy, and then you can come back again outside and then attack the enemy. If you just jump outside towards the enemy, you are just giving away your cover, right? You'll be more exposed to the enemy when you're jumping out. So don't just jump out to the enemy and give away your cover. Instead of doing that, try to just use and take advantage of your cover. Move outside a little bit, attack the enemy, and go back into your cover to dodge the enemy's attack, and then again you can come outside and then attack the enemy. Now guys, the fourth mistake that players do is that they play in maps that they are not that familiar with. For example, let's say that you know the Bermuda map very well. If you are an old player, I think you already know very well about the Bermuda map. But if you don't know that much about the Nextera map, you might have a hard time playing in the Nextera map when you get that in Clash Squad. For example, when you're playing in the Nextera map, you might have a hard time trying to figure out which side the enemies are going to come from. You might have a hard time trying to figure out which side to rush from. You might have a hard time trying to figure out what are the best grenade angles. You might have a hard time trying to figure out which side to flank from. So if you want to play in the Nextera map, first of all, before you go into rank matches, first of all, go into classic matches in the Nextera map and try to get familiar with that map. And afterwards, you could just go into rank matches, and if you get the Nextera map, you can play in that. But another thing that you guys can do if you don't like the Nextera map is that you can delete the Nextera map. So if you delete the Nextera map, you'll just get the Bermuda map. Now let's move on to mistake number 5. Now this is a mistake that I used to do a lot back in the day, and I think some of you guys might also be doing this mistake. And that mistake is rushing aggressively without plan. Now for example, let's say there are like 2 enemies in front of you and you go straight ahead and rush into them thinking that you will be able to one tap both of them. First of all, you do a one tap on the first one and afterwards you do a one tap on the second one. But what would happen if you're not able to do that first one tap on that first enemy? Those 2 enemies might get together and attack you, right? So before you rush, first of all, try to think a step ahead. Try to think what would happen if that one tap doesn't work out. Are you gonna place a glue wall? Are you gonna use an active skill like the Tatsuya character skill and move away to another side? So as I said earlier, before you rush, try to think 1 or 2 steps ahead, and afterwards you can go and rush the enemy. Another thing that I want to talk about rushing in Clash Squad matches is that, for example, let's say that you're rushing in an aggressive style but it's not working out for you in that specific match. For example, let's say that you're playing with random players, you're rushing in an aggressive style but you're getting knocked down and those random players are not reviving you, they are not helping you out. So if you're in a situation like that, try to change your rushing style. Instead of rushing in an aggressive style, try to flank the enemy, or else you could also get onto a higher position in the map and then you can snipe the enemies from there. Now another mistake that players do is that they don't use a really good character combination. Now I think a lot of you guys know that right now 2 of the characters that are dominating the game right now are the Sonya character and the Dimitri character, and if you try to use a character combination that can't counter these 2 characters, I think you might be having a hard time, right? So if you want to know 3 of the most powerful character combinations to use right now in the CS rank season, make sure to go and check out this video.